Hey everyone, this is Jack from the Cardboard Herald, and today we are back in order to do a review of the new joint by Stonemaier Games, Red Rising, the game that is a quasi-reimplementation inspired by a Fantasy Realms game that is set within the dystopian speculative fiction universe of Red Rising by Pierce Brown. So, what is this game? This, if anything, the best way that I could describe this in one word, if I could sum it all up, it's that it is concise. This is a very easy to learn, very easy to teach, very easy to play game that suits 1 to 6 players beautifully. But what type of game is it? This is a hand management game, for better or worse. So they also throw in the descriptor that it's a combo building game, which, yeah, more or less that's there. But the way that it works, all players have a hand of 5 cards, and there are 4 locations on the board, which are going to be populated with another 2 cards each, with only the top one showing any details about that card. The point of the game, the purpose, the thrust, is that you are going to try to propel the overall pace towards the end game while sculpting your hand to result with the most points, not just the fixed amount of points in the upper left of each of your cards, but also the bonus points that you could either get or lose detailed at the bottom of each card. This may have to do with the different colors that are in your hand, having certain characters linked together. You may gain points for having certain characters or lose points for having certain characters. Each card has its own unique conditions as well as abilities. Now, on your turn, you're going to take 1 card from your hand of cards and you're going to put it onto one of the 4 different locations, and then trigger the ability of the card that you played if it has a when played ability. And then you are going to, most of the time, pick up a card from one of the 3 other locations that you didn't play to and get the bonus ability of whatever that location is. Most of these are going to propel you onwards towards the end game, not only giving you more points, but triggering one of the end game conditions. Now, if you don't like any of the cards that are out there on the table, or just for reasons, there are situations in which you don't have to play a card, or if you do play a card, you're going to draw a card from the top of the deck rather than from the table, and then roll a die and get the bonus associated with the dice, still kind of propelling the overall table towards this eventual end game and giving you more manipulation as you try to set up the best possible hand. At the end of the game, you're going to flop all the cards onto the table. You're going to count up points, not just for the points in the upper left corner, but all the conditions at the bottoms of each of the cards, as well as points from the various things that were accruing, marching you forward towards the end game conditions, which that is a super unique aspect of this game, how the game end trigger works. So let's go ahead and march on over to what makes this game cool. So the end game triggers in Red Rising. Stonemaier has always been about organic end game conclusions rather than fixed round structures. We're going to make it so the players have a hand, an agency in triggering the end of the game. And that's no different for here. The bonuses that you trigger in 3 of the 4 locations correspond to the 3 conditions that need to be met amongst all players at the table in order to end the game. You have Helium, you have the Fleet Track, and then you have the Institute. If a player has 7 cubes at the Institute, a player has 7 Helium, a player has at least 7 on the Fleet Track, amongst all the players, then the game will end. However, if 1 player has any 2 of them consolidated just amongst themselves, then they also trigger the end of the game, even if the 3rd one hasn't been met, which is really cool and interesting and gives you things to work towards and pivot to. I really like the overall arc of this game. Now, those things are also going to contribute to your points, so you have more incentives to manipulating these different aspects of the game. Another thing that I really like about this game is that it gives you an opportunity for some level of scheming, some trickiness in there There's not a lot of strategy, so to speak. We'll get to that in a little bit, but there are going to be moments where you can feel like, oh yeah, this is all coming up Millhouse. This is all working together. This is exactly the opportunity that I've been waiting for. A combo is going to trigger, or you're going to get just the right card by playing the right card out of your hand, or you're going to simultaneously work towards two different things that you've been wanting to do for a while. There are moments that feel really good like that. And for such a narrow focus and lightweight of a game, that's cool that there are those opportunities within. And then, of course, a highlight is the beauty of this game. It looks wonderful, and especially the collector's edition, which I have. The metal cubes for the player cubes, the components, the containers, the organization, the artwork, those all look awesome. And my personal favorite thing about it, which I think is a collector's edition exclusive, is that the gold characters, the gold suit, which are the premier, the superior humanity within the story, all have a gold embossing on the side, which looks spectacular. And it's just such a wonderful reflection of the theme of the book series, which I started reading in anticipation of this game. And you know what? It's pretty good. You should check it out. But it's just a nice flourish to reinforce that within the theme of the game, this is the cream of the crop, and they are de facto better than the rest of humanity. And then the last thing that I think is a real highlight about this game is that the solo mode is awesome, as should be expected from Automa Factory at this point, who have kind of set the bar for what automated players and solo experience should be in the modern tabletop hobby. Morton Monrad Peterson did a spectacular job at making just a smooth, quick, concise Automa system that you can play. It probably takes about 20 minutes for an experienced player. It's really well done. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows on Mars. There are some things that didn't work out in the Land of Red Rising. So what didn't work? Probably the biggest thing is that you should know going into this that I never really felt a sense of strategy, long-term strategy throughout the game. It's very reactive. You certainly are going to have situations where you're like, oh, I'm going to now do this because this thing happened. But it's too unpredictable, not just in what other players are going to play or scoop up off the table, but also what cards are going to come out. There are some cards that you may have in your hand that are reliant on very specific circumstances to pan out, and you don't have that reliability to kind of sculpt things from the beginning of the game to the end. If anything, it's a much more tactical game than it is a strategy game, and that's fine, but you should know that. Also, for its ease to learn, it takes a while for it to feel intuitive. You have cards in your hand that are worth fat points. You can see how they're worth points, but also you need to propel the endgame conditions, and it never quite feels instinctive to want to get rid of cards from your hand, sometimes picking up lesser cards just to get more cubes out of the Institute or the fleet or something. It doesn't necessarily have an intuition that's picked up in even the first couple of games, which can be jarring for players learning it. It's not complicated to learn, but as far as getting a feeling on what's going to be best for you in this moment is not always clear. And the last thing that I want to call attention to is the collector's edition does have a bit of a blemish in it. I love the metal player cubes, but the yellow and brown, or I guess the gold and brown or gold and yellow, whatever they're supposed to be, those are really hard to distinguish. And the pink and red, or maybe it's purple and red or pink and purple, those are also really hard to distinguish. And even when you have a green and blue mixed together, it can be hard to sort those out. They are different. They are definitely different. The brown is definitely dustier, a more Dijon than the brighter gold. But from a visibility perspective, from an accessibility perspective, from a look at the table and get a good read on where everyone's at perspective, those cubes could have been much, much, much different colors. So overall, as a lightweight game that's extremely approachable, that scales well from 1 to 6 players, it's pretty good. I mean, it didn't blow off my socks. I'm not wearing socks right now, but if I did have socks on, they wouldn't be blown off. Now, it certainly is the most approachable game from a mechanical perspective in Stonemaier's catalog, which is really cool for them to kind of flush it out and diversify the games that they have on offer. I love a lot of Stonemaier games, so I don't know that this would be in even my top 5 of their catalog, but it's still another solid release. And ultimately, it does what it does well, and I enjoyed my time with it. And that is our review. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Jack for the Cardboard Herald. If you enjoyed this video, we have all kinds of other reviews, interviews, and recommendations via writing, podcasts, and video here on our channel and website cardboardherald.com. Our content is audience supported, so if you want to show your support, please visit our Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Cardboard Herald.